Hi everyone, this is Dr. Nitin Chhoda, and in this training video, I'm going to give you actual proof, actual nationwide data, nationwide consensus that provides definitive proof as to why a second stimulus payment must happen right now. I know a lot of my subscribers watching already know the importance of a second stimulus payment, but I think if you watch the video all the way to the end, you'll be surprised by the nationwide consensus and by the actual extent of the suffering that we are facing across the country and why a second stimulus payment is absolutely necessary right now. I'm going to go over three things in this video. The first is the important research from an incredible foundation that I'm going to tell you about. Number two, I'm going to talk to you about the consensus across party lines, across both sides of the aisle, whether you're red, whether you're blue, it doesn't matter. The consensus across both sides of the aisle about the need for additional stimulus. And finally, I'm going to talk to you about what you can expect going forward. Before I begin, if you're not an existing subscriber yet, please consider subscribing below. And please click the like button. Also, please enable notifications so you get an instant update from me going forward. I want to talk to you about an incredible foundation called the Peterson Foundation. It's formed in 2008 by Peter G. Peterson, who's a former US Secretary of Commerce in the Nixon Administration, and he's the co-founder of the Blackstone Group, which is a financial services company. Now, the purpose, the mission of this foundation, it is a non-partisan foundation that is dedicated to addressing America's long-term fiscal, that is financial challenges, to ensure a better economic future for all of us. I will link you to the foundation's website below, so I strongly recommend you check it out and some of the incredible research that they put out if you're into stuff like that and if you're a financial nerd like I am. Now, the good news is the foundation works with leading policy experts, elected officials, and also the public to come up with solutions that support America and put America on a sustainable financial path. They actually have a phenomenal article on their website that talks about the national debt. So I'll link you to that article as well. But let's take a look at some of the incredible data that came out from this foundation that I'm going to highlight in this video. And that is going to give you the proof that a second stimulus payment is absolutely necessary because it is a nationwide consensus. Now, here's some data from the foundation that will actually confirm what we've all been thinking about, because this data has been done at a nationwide level. Nearly 7 in 10 Americans say that their incomes have been reduced from the pandemic. Fewer than half of Americans who expect to receive an economic impact payment, which is basically a stimulus check, have actually received one. Most Americans, that's more than 50%, specifically 56%, say it will take at least a year or longer to fully recover from the pandemic's impact, which, by the way, is in line with the expectations of the Federal Reserve, which has stated that it could take 2 years, potentially 3 years, for the GDP to come back to normal. That's why they've kept the federal funds rate, which is the rate at which banks lend to each other, at 0% or close to 0% through 2022. 7 in 10 Americans, that is 74%, have reported that the outbreak has impacted their personal or business decisions, such as travel cancellations and delaying major purchases. I'm one of them. I usually travel all over the world because I have business meetings, I have assets, I have businesses, I own property all over the world. I have done no traveling as a result of this pandemic. Here's some interesting research about what Americans have done in response to the pandemic, and this research tracks changes from February, March, all the way through April. More recent data will also be coming out from this foundation, so I definitely think you should check out their website. Avoiding public places, this was at 7% back in February, and this is at 65% in April 2020. And I don't think the trends are going to change in the near future until we all feel much more comfortable, until the number of outbreaks, until the number of cases has gone down, until a vaccine is released. So I think this is going to hold somewhat steady, and it went up really quickly, but it's going to taper off very, very slowly. Let's take a look at wearing face masks. None of us were talking about wearing face masks in February or March, and now 60% of individuals who were surveyed wear face masks. Cancelled or changed travel plans, it jumped up from 5% to 54%. Putting off a large purchase jumped from 4% to 40%, which, by the way, is something that's going to slow down the economy, the fact that individuals are not spending. I have done other training videos about the disruption in consumer spending and how that's likely to impact the economy in the channel. So make sure you check that out as well. And individuals who've been bothered by different things, whether it's changing investments or something else, that has also ticked up. Now, this data on your screen is much more recent data from the foundation, and it is much much more telling, because it actually tells you about the extent of the impact that this pandemic has had on all of us across the country, regardless of party lines. This is really important. It doesn't matter, for me personally, it doesn't matter whether you're red or blue. What matters to me is that we're all behind the red, white, and blue. So this data, which again is more recent data, states that more than 1 in every 5 Americans, specifically 21% of individuals, report being laid off or furloughed since the beginning of this pandemic. That's a huge impact. We've never seen anything like this throughout our economy. And 33%, that's 1 in every 3 individuals there, do not expect to be rehired or retained. Those are some shocking statistics. 76% of individuals say it's important for them to receive an additional stimulus payment, a second stimulus payment. The economic impact payment, which was the first stimulus check, is simply not enough. $1,200 doesn't take you very far. 76% of individuals say it's important for them to receive an additional stimulus payment, and slightly more people in the South and the Northeast. This is interesting. More individuals in the South and in the Northeast. In the South, you see the numbers at 79%. In the Northeast, the numbers at 78%. Slightly more individuals in the South and the Northeast said that they need a second stimulus impact. Now, this has a lot to do with the fact that the first wave, the outbreak, was significant in New York, which set off the trigger in the Northeast and all of the closures for most of the Northeast. Now, fortunately, things are starting to open back up in New York, and I'm hoping that things start to open back up in other parts of the country. But like I mentioned before, I think this whole situation is going to go in waves across the country. Some states will recover faster than others. Some states might take more time to recover, depending on how this thing makes its way across the length and breadth of our country. Now, how would Americans use a second stimulus payment? This is very important and this is very telling. And individuals between the ages of 18 to 44, 45 to 64, and 65 and above were surveyed. 52% of individuals in total said that they would pay for basic living expenses such as mortgage or rent or food. So half of the individuals that were surveyed said that they would need the second stimulus payment for the bare essentials, the bare necessities. This shows you how important the second stimulus payment is, and it has to come, it should come, and hopefully policymakers are paying attention to this kind of data. Hopefully, as you're watching this, you can pick up the phone and call a policymaker, because that is the impact that you can make. You have more power than you think. Let's talk about saving. And by the way, I've talked about saving on my channel, and I encourage all of my subscribers to save as much as they can. And 39% of individuals said they would save it, because this is forcing us to become savers. And I've talked about this earlier. This is forcing us to become financial adults. This is forcing us to grow up faster than we would had things been normal, had this not happened. So use this as an opportunity to become much more financially responsible as quickly as possible, and use this to force yourself to save more and have more of a financial buffer in the event there's a situation in the future where you need to fall back on your savings. Now, another thing that's interesting in this statistic is that 35% of individuals said that they would use the money to pay off debt such as credit cards, student loans, and all the other numbers are quite small. So as you can see, more than half of the individuals who were surveyed wanted to use the money for mortgage, for rent, for food. Other individuals wanted to save it, which by the way is a good thing, and some others just wanted to use the money to pay off their debt. So you can see that there's really a strong need for the second stimulus. And speaking of the second stimulus and how long this is expected to last, a growing number of individuals, more so than in the prior month's survey, said that it will take a year or longer to recover. 58% of individuals have come to terms with the reality that it could take a year or longer for all of this to recover and for the US economy to fully recover from this pandemic. And I have to say, they have it right. And I have to say that the Federal Reserve, which relies on these complex statistical models, all of these complex studies and trends and the GDP and the interest rates and all that, I have to say that your gut instinct as a viewer, as a subscriber, as a concerned citizen is correct. This could take a year, potentially longer to recover. My personal opinion, this could take anywhere from 6 months to 2 years. I'm an optimistic kind of guy, so I'm hoping that it'll happen between 6 months to a year. Now, I know that sounds like it may not happen, but hopefully it does happen, and hopefully I'm proven right, because I do expect things to improve quickly, and I'm hopeful that a vaccine comes out pretty quickly. 66% of individuals in the most recent study from the foundation have said that their personal or business decisions such as wearing face masks or canceling travel have been impacted. And this is the most important part of the entire survey. This information is true across party lines. It doesn't matter whether you're red or blue. For me, it's about the red, white, and blue. It doesn't matter whether you're a Democrat, whether you're a Republican. 7 in 10 Democrats compared to 6 in 10 Republicans participated in this survey, and the consensus that I gave you was consistent across party lines. So what does this tell you? This tells you that there are economic reasons why a second stimulus is very likely to happen. How is it going to be? I'm not sure. We'll have to wait and see. When is it going to happen? Based on all of the recent trends, it looks like some sort of a decision will happen towards the end of July. I did another training video talking about this and why it's going to be in the end of July. But if you're watching this video and you're waiting for a second stimulus, there are two things you need to keep in mind. One, we will need to wait for a few weeks until the Democrats and the Republicans see eye to eye, because one side cannot get anything done without the other. And number two, use this as an opportunity to save as much as you can. I know I mentioned this in other videos, and I'm going to keep mentioning it again and again until you, my subscriber, get tired of hearing it, because I know how important this is to you. Save as much as you can, not only during these bad times, but also as times get better. Because when you have that saving, when you have that financial buffer, you will be able to live a better life without necessarily having more things. In fact, there's a direct relationship between saving and happiness. The amount of money you make actually is not directly linked to happiness, but the amount of savings you have is directly linked to happiness. I will actually be doing another video on that topic and explaining that relationship, because there was a fascinating survey done by Ally Bank about this. I hope you learned something new from this video. I appreciate you watching. I release videos at 2 p.m. East Coast time most days of the week. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this entire training. Please do me a favor. Please click the like button, because that does help out the YouTube algorithm. That's a way of you thanking me. That's a way of you helping me. Please stimulate the like button. Also, please click subscribe so you can get notifications, and also click that notification button right next to subscribe so you can get instant notifications about future videos that I release. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next video.